Imagine driving along Interstate 70, a stretch of highway that cuts through the heart of America. It's a path familiar to many, but for some, it became a trail of terror. In the spring of 1992, an unseen predator embarked on a murder spree, leaving a chilling signature across multiple states. 6 store clerks, each working alone, were brutally murdered, their lives cut short in a series of crimes that seemed as random as they were ruthless. Who was this phantom killer? Why choose these victims, and why leave so little behind? No clear motive, no clues, just a trail of grief. The crimes were linked by ballistics, yet the killer remained a shadow, slipping through the fingers of law enforcement. Dubbed the I-70 killer, this enigma sparked one of the most extensive manhunts in U.S. history, a puzzle that, decades later, remains unsolved. These weren't just crimes, they were messages left unread, a cipher of violence that has baffled investigators for years. What drives a person to commit such acts of random violence? Is it the thrill of the hunt, a deep-seated hatred, or a desire to instill fear in the heart of every small-town shop owner along this vast highway? As we delve into the story of the I-70 killer, we explore not just the facts, but the fear, the theories, and the fervent hope that one day justice will be served. Join us as we unravel the mystery of a killer who vanished into thin air, leaving behind a legacy of loss and a series of questions that haunt those left in the wake of tragedy. What secrets lie hidden along Interstate 70, and will the families of the victims ever find the closure they so desperately seek? The saga of the I-70 killer begins on April 8, 1992, in Indianapolis, Indiana, with the murder of Robin Fuldauer. Alone in a shoe store, she became the first known victim. 3 days later, the killer struck again, over 700 miles away in Wichita, Kansas, claiming the lives of Patricia Majors and Patricia Smith. Both women were working late in a bridal shop when their lives were abruptly ended. The pattern continued on April 27 with Michael McCown in Terre Haute, Indiana. Unlike the other victims, Mick, as he was known, was a man, but it's theorized he was mistaken for a woman due to his long hair, or possibly because his store, Sylvia's Ceramics, bore a woman's name. The killings didn't stop there. Nancy Kitzmiller in St. Charles, Missouri, was murdered on May 3, followed by Sarah Blessing in Raytown, Missouri on May 7. Each crime scene painted a similar, horrifying picture. A store clerk working alone, shot by an assailant who left behind little evidence and took even less in terms of material gain. It was clear these murders weren't motivated by robbery. The killer's motives were darker, more elusive. Ballistics linked these murders, confirming they were the work of a single individual. This person was not just committing random acts of violence, there was a chilling method to his madness. The killer selected locations that were easily accessible from Interstate 70, targeting victims who were vulnerable due to their isolated work environments. This modus operandi not only facilitated a quick escape, but also instilled a pervasive fear among small business owners and employees across the Midwest. Witnesses were scarce, but those who did see the killer described a man of average height and build, unremarkable at a glance, making him all the more difficult to identify. This anonymity seemed to embolden him, allowing him to vanish before law enforcement could piece together the puzzle of his movements. The I-70 killer's pattern of selecting victims and locations suggests a level of premeditation and reconnaissance. He likely scouted locations in advance, choosing his targets based on their vulnerability and proximity to the interstate for a quick getaway. The choice of an Irma work handgun, a rare and outdated weapon, adds another layer of mystery. Its unique ballistic signature helped link the murders, but also indicated a personal attachment to the weapon, suggesting it may have been a family heirloom or held some sentimental value. The series of murders in 1992 abruptly ended as mysteriously as they began, leaving communities along I-70 in a state of fear and confusion. However, the specter of these crimes would resurface with similar incidents in Texas in 1993 and a lone murder in 2001 in Terre Haute, raising questions about whether the I-70 killer had resumed his deadly activities or if these were the works of a copycat. These crimes, linked by a highway but separated by hundreds of miles, paint a portrait of a killer on the move, one who understood the art of blending in and the advantage of mobility. The victims, seemingly chosen at random but connected by their circumstances, left a haunting legacy that challenges investigators to this day. As we delve deeper into the details of each murder, the question remains: what drove the I-70 killer to commit these heinous acts, and how did he manage to evade capture for so long? In the immediate aftermath of the I-70 murders, law enforcement agencies across multiple states were thrust into a complex web of crime scenes that spanned hundreds of miles. The initial investigation efforts were Herculean in scope, as detectives tried to piece together the actions of a killer who seemed to vanish into thin air after each attack. The geographic spread of the crimes presented a significant challenge, requiring coordination between jurisdictions that often operated independently of one another. As the investigation unfolded, one of the first major breakthroughs was the ballistics analysis. The use of an Irma work handgun, a rare World War I-era German pistol, linked the murders. This discovery was pivotal, as it confirmed that the crimes were the work of a single individual. However, the rarity of the weapon also posed its own set of challenges. Its unique nature meant there were few leads to follow in tracking its origin or its current owner. Another critical component of the investigation was the collection and analysis of witness statements. Witnesses were few, but their accounts provided invaluable insights into the killer's appearance and behavior. Sketches were drawn, and descriptions were circulated, but the vague and common features described made it difficult to narrow down a suspect list. The killer was described as an average-looking man, making him blend into the population seamlessly, a fact that undoubtedly aided his ability to avoid capture. The investigation was also hindered by the limitations of forensic technology at the time. DNA analysis was not as advanced or widely used as it is today, and the concept of touch DNA was years from being utilized in criminal investigations. This meant that physical evidence at the crime scenes provided limited leads. The killer's meticulous avoidance of leaving behind any trace evidence further complicated the investigation. Law enforcement faced not only the challenge of a mobile killer, but also the task of connecting dots across state lines in a pre-digital era. Communication between jurisdictions relied heavily on phone calls, faxes, and mailed documents, slowing down the process of information sharing and collaboration. This lack of immediacy in communication may have provided the killer with the advantage of time, allowing him to move and strike again undetected. Despite these challenges, the dedication of the investigators was unwavering. Task forces were assembled, and the FBI was brought in to assist with profiling the killer and providing additional resources. The profiles developed offered insights into the possible psychology of the killer, suggesting he was fulfilling a fantasy or had a deep-seated need for control. However, without a name or a face, these profiles could only go so far in aiding the capture of the killer. The role of the media became a double-edged sword in the investigation. While it helped to spread awareness of the crimes and encouraged the public to come forward with any information, it also ran the risk of creating panic or potentially tipping off the killer. The release of the gun model to the public, a decision made with the hope of generating new leads, may have inadvertently caused the killer to cease his activities, thereby halting the flow of new evidence. Over the years, as forensic technology advanced, law enforcement revisited the case, applying new techniques to old evidence. The formation of the 2021 task force was a testament to the enduring commitment to solving the I-70 murders. This collaborative effort, leveraging the latest in DNA technology and forensic analysis, represented a renewed hope in bringing closure to the victims' families. The investigation into the I-70 killings is a stark reminder of the complexities and challenges faced by law enforcement when dealing with serial crimes that span multiple jurisdictions. It underscores the evolution of investigative techniques and the importance of persistence, collaboration, and innovation in the pursuit of justice. Nearly 3 decades after the I-70 murders gripped the heartland of America, a renewed push for answers led to the formation of a specialized task force in 2021. Comprising detectives and forensic experts from the jurisdictions originally rocked by the killings, this task force set out with a singular objective: to leverage advances in forensic technology to solve a case that had long eluded closure. The creation of the task force was driven by the convergence of 2 critical factors: the advent of sophisticated forensic techniques, particularly in DNA analysis, and a collective determination to bring peace to the communities and families still haunted by loss. The introduction of touch DNA technology, capable of detecting genetic material from the slightest contact, offered a promising avenue for revisiting evidence that had been meticulously analyzed but yielded no conclusive leads in the past. One of the task force's most significant assets was the involvement of Bob Cyphers, a seasoned journalist with Came Off TV in St. Louis, who had been covering the I-70 killer since the early 90s. Cyphers brought not only a deep familiarity with the case, but also a unique perspective, bridging the gap between law enforcement and the public. His book, Dead End: Inside the Hunt for the I-70 Serial Killer, compiled years of research and interviews, shedding new light on the investigation and potentially galvanizing public interest and information sharing. The task force's objectives were multifaceted. Beyond reanalyzing physical evidence with new technologies, there was a concerted effort to re-examine the killer's patterns and potential motives with fresh eyes. This included revisiting witness statements and re-engaging with communities affected by the murders. The team was determined to explore every conceivable angle, from revisiting the ballistic evidence that had initially linked the crimes to delving into the psychological profiles that had been developed. One of the most tantalizing prospects for the task force was the application of genetic genealogy, a technique that had solved numerous cold cases in recent years by identifying suspects through DNA matches with distant relatives. The hope was that even the smallest piece of genetic material recovered from the crime scenes could be used to trace the killer's lineage, and, ultimately, to the killer himself. The task force also capitalized on the proliferation of digital databases and information-sharing platforms that allowed for quicker, more comprehensive comparisons of forensic evidence across state lines. This networked approach was a far cry from the days of faxed bulletins and manually compared ballistics reports, highlighting how much the landscape of criminal investigation had evolved. Bob Cypher's involvement brought an additional layer of public scrutiny and interest to the task force's efforts. His access to the detectives, combined with his investigative journalism, provided a conduit for information flow that was crucial in keeping the case in the public eye. Cypher's work underscored the belief that somewhere, a piece of overlooked evidence or an untold story could unlock the mystery of the I-70 killer. Despite the advances in technology and the renewed efforts of the task force, the path to solving the I-70 murders remains fraught with challenges. The passage of time has eroded some evidence and dimmed memories, making the task force's work as much an exercise in persistence as it is in forensic science. Yet, the potential for new evidence, spurred by Cypher's book and the public's renewed interest, offers a beacon of hope. The formation of the 2021 task force and the integration of modern forensic technology represent a pivotal moment in the long, dark narrative of the I-70 murders. With each piece of re-examined evidence, each revisited witness statement, and each new piece of information, the task force edges closer to uncovering the truth. It's a testament to the enduring commitment to justice for the victims and their families, a promise that the search for answers will continue, no matter how much time has passed. As we reach the end of our journey through the haunting story of the I-70 murders, it's clear that the quest for justice is far from over. The formation of the 2021 task force and the adoption of cutting-edge forensic technology have injected new hope into a case that has remained unsolved for decades. Yet, the shadow of the I-70 killer lingers, a reminder of the mysteries that persist in the dark corners of our society. The significance of keeping this case in the public eye cannot be overstated. Each retelling, each share, and each discussion breathes life into the investigation, potentially drawing it closer to resolution. Public awareness creates pressure and incentive for continued efforts, and it keeps the memories of the victims alive, honoring their stories and the impact they've left on their communities. This is where you, the viewer, come in. Your engagement, your curiosity, and your willingness to share information could make a tangible difference. If you have any knowledge, no matter how insignificant it may seem, about the I-70 murders, you are encouraged to come forward. Your piece of the puzzle could be the key to unlocking this decades-long mystery. Please, if you can, share this video, talk about the case, and keep the dialogue going. And don't forget to subscribe for updates on this and other unsolved mysteries. Together, we can help shine a light on the darkest of cases in the hope that one day, justice will prevail for the victims of the I-70 killer. The I-70 killer. The I-70